Edward.
Welcome, race fans. Saturday night, Slamming Saturday here with KMA Racing. This is KMA TV, and I am Scott Kulovic. Going to try to keep you entertained up here in the fans tonight, but hopefully these drivers down on that 2.66 mile speedway will keep you entertained out there on that track. And I'll tell you what, folks, I am really excited about tonight's race. Last night, These drivers came out here and they ran 100 laps caution free. That is right. 100 laps caution free last night at Michigan. Let's see how these boys perform out here tonight at Talladega. Great night for weather on this 2.6 mile speedway. 4 miles, four turns around here. Very simple. Turn left, go straight. Turn left, go straight. But I tell you what, the word that strikes fear into a lot of these drivers out here is speedway. A lot of drivers out here know what it takes. They know how to do it. But doing it and getting her done are two different things. But I tell you what, I have got some very high hopes. A couple of shout outs. Ted Immenheiser with Gearhead Paint Shop is out here on the track tonight. Keep an eye out for the number 7. Got a couple of his paint jobs out here making their appearance. So a big shout out there to Gearhead Paint Shop and Ted Immenheiser. Also a big shout out there to Gary Whitmer. Gary Whitmer with GW Graphics. He will be out here on track tonight as well. And of course, always big shout out there to PAD. People Against Distracted Driving, that great commercial that you saw there regarding PAD just a couple of minutes ago. That commercial was put out by Gary Whitmer with GW Graphics. People Against Distracted Driving coming up on a very busy holiday weekend here with the 4th of July coming in. We want everybody to stay safe, because if you're out there not staying safe, you can't come and help me out with these broadcasts. You can't come in here and watch your favorite driver out here on this track. So, gentlemen and ladies, remember, PAD. All right, grid times are in, folks. We're going to take a look at this starting grid out here tonight. Out there on that front line is Wally Tierheimer. Wally Tierheimer with a 53.386. Second position belonging to Nathan Sylvia. Gary Whitmer Jr. qualifying tonight in third with a 53.448. Edward Bray in fourth with a 53.449. Jay Anderson, fifth place tonight with a 53.452. Starting with sixth place, Michael Johnson. Seventh place belonging to Ted Immenheiser in the number 7. Joel Guy, position 8. Chris Hogue, back there in position 9. And rounding out the top 10 is Ben Gear with a 53.529. Back into 11th place, Richard Brose. Mark Jackson, Donald Stewart. Jack Watts, myself, I'm not out there on that track, but I did come out here and I did run a few laps. And I tell you what, the track's feeling good. The trucks are looking good. They're smelling good. They're tasting good. They're rolling good. Got some high hopes out here tonight. Ronald Klein in the rear of the pack, along with Byron Rose and Lee Ryerson Jr. So it's going to be a small field out here tonight. That's all right. We don't need a huge field out here to have a good time. Oftentimes those huge fields do get a little bit scary. But Wally Tierheimer going to be kicking us off for 100 laps out here tonight at Talladega. Ronald Klein out here tonight representing RTK Motorsports. High hopes out here for RTK. Edward Bray will be representing Black Talon Racing. Gary Whitmer Jr. driving the 4-year anniversary truck. We had talked about Ted Immenheiser. That is one of the trucks that Ted Immenheiser has painted up for KMA Racing. Reading Gearhead Paint Shop right there across the top of the windshield. High hopes out here for Gary. Now Gary is tonight qualified up here in 4th position. So that's a good spot, because everybody knows, we talk about that hornet's nest out here. And 4th position, not really what we would call the hornet's nest. That's actually a pretty good spot to start out in. Looking at the rear end of the number 5 of Gary Whitmer. Wally Tierheimer, Nathan Sylvia, side by side. 100 laps of Talladega. Hearing these trucks get it down into second gear. Pace speed is 80. No 3 wide on the start. No advancing your position before that start-finish line. No changing lanes before that start-finish line. Like Negan says, there are rules. Pace car is in. Wally holding steady. Nathan holding steady.
Green flag.
Green flag drops and away they go, ladies and gentlemen. Crossing that start-finish line side by side. Wally and Nathan off to an extremely good start. Edward Bray, second truck up on that high lane. Gary Whitmer, second truck on that inside lane. Number 18, Jay Anderson, opting for the Toyota tonight. We've got the Toyota Tundras watching the 18 move up. Ted Immenheiser, the number 7, up into the high lane. Gear ahead paint shop. Chris Hogue in the number 6 Napa down on that inside lane. Going to be a little bit different from some of our usual Saturday events as we do roll into summer. Drivers are getting busy with their real life, with their families, taking their wives out to dinner, so the field on Saturday night, it has shrunk a little bit. Wally, tighter than a hair in a biscuit, hanging on for dear life on the rear end of the number 19. Edward Bray on the outside lane, getting help from Jay Anderson. Checking in with RTK Motorsports, position 8. Ronald Klein pushing on the rear end of the number 87 of Richard Brose, Loose Cannon. Loose Cannon in a Chevy Silverado. Richard Brose keeping a safe distance off of the front of the pack. But I tell you what, with a small field like this, you cannot let go of that draft. You lose draft sitting right at about 1.1 back, and you're going to be in a dangerous position. Richard Brose so far hanging on to that pack. But if he does lose that pack and you drop down to single vehicle out here on the speedway, you are going to get lapped very shortly. You have got to have that pack help. Jay Anderson supporting Coke up to that outside lane. Richard Brose getting a very good run onto the number 18. Caution is out. Looking at Lee Ryerson Jr. in the number 9, getting a little bit of clip there from the number 7 of Ted Immenheiser. I do believe, now one thing about these vehicles, as we know, folks, they are turn sensitive. The number 7 and the number 9 not quite squared up, bringing out our first caution of the night here at Talladega. But I tell you what, I'm not sweating it. These drivers do have a backup vehicle there on the holler. Pretty sure Lee's going to be getting out his backup vehicle, getting back out there on that track. First caution coming very early, involving the number 7 of Ted Immenheiser and the, do you believe, the 125. Tonight, the number 9 of Lee Ryerson Jr. Lee Ryerson Jr. limping his way around the track, going to get into pit road, get all fixed up, nice and new and pretty, as Nathan Sylvia and Gary Whitmer Jr. catch that pace car. Question will be, will the leaders pit for laps in, really don't see much reason to go in and pit, especially if you are up there in front. Keeping an eye on Gary Whitmer. Gary Whitmer rolling on by pit row. Nathan Sylvia rolling on by pit row. How about it, Gary Whitmer? Have you got a copy?
I got you, Scott.
Completely different ball game out here tonight for you, sir. Starting up there near the front. Right now you're on that P1 position with 95 to go. Talk to me about what's on your mind with this early caution setting you up to be the race leader.
I don't know what to think of this. I've been out pretty much all week feeling bad. Come in here, had second thoughts about running, but now I'm up in first.
Well, you indeed do got a run right now. You're looking very sharp out there in the Ted Immenheiser Gearhead for-year anniversary truck, Chevy Silverado. Do you actually have a preference between a Chevy and a Toyota?
Yeah, Chevy most of the time, yeah.
Alrighty, want to give a big shout out there to Mom and Dad. We are so looking forward to Gary Sr. getting out here to join us, hopefully before too long. How is the progress on getting Dad out here?
Dad just needs some time behind the wheel and learning all the features and everything that iRacing and Trading Paints has to give. Other than that, I think he's good to go.
Alrighty, copy that. Now tell us real quick about GW Graphics. We were looking at the pad commercial. Very good job. Tell us about the services that we can acquire from GW Graphics.
GW Graphics I do video productions, commercials, special events, and that sort of thing for KMA Racing during commercials.
Alrighty. Good information right there, and good luck to you, sir.
All right, thank you, Scott. Shout out to Mom and Dad.
Shout out to Mom and Dad, indeed. All right, folks, underneath our very first caution of the night, caution coming early on contact with Ted and Lee. Drivers have one more time by. How about it, Wally? Have you got a copy?
Hey there, Scott. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Sorry, Scott, Edward was just saying something to me. So
All right.
I guess I said I was kind of protesting. I said, "Hey, wait a minute. Why am I in fourth place? I thought I was ahead of you." He said that he got me by a license plate.
All righty, copy that. Surprise first caution. We saw the number 7 get up there into the number 9 on that rear end. Talk to us about how sensitive these rear ends and how you got to be all squared up to push and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, since the last build or the last build or 2 builds or whatever, it's been really sensitive, and you got to be square on the cars, the trucks. If you're not square, or if someone's coming down a hair or going up a hair, and you're doing the opposite, somebody is going around. I mean, it could be on the straight, in the corner, it doesn't matter. It's just dangerous out there, and you got to really pick your times when you're going to push. You got to trust the guy in front of you, and if you don't, it's hard, really hard to do it, because you lay off and then the lines check up. So it's really a kind of a chess match out there with the way these trucks are. If you really don't trust the person you're driving around.
All righty, Wally Tierheimer talking about trust, and I do agree with you. Trust is everything, but it is early, and we've still got 93 laps to get her done. How do you think you're going to fare tonight with this smaller field?
There's 4 of us in here that we're kind of working together, try to work strategy together. We got the Max V crew in here. We got Richie, we got Nathan, we got Whitey, and that's enough to have a nice little group if in case we want to pit and do a different strategy. So I like our chances.
All righty, sounding good out there. Well, good luck to you, and we're hoping to see Mom Tierheimer out there on that KMA TV chat. If we do, I'll let you know.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Scott.
Good luck to you, Wally.
Thank you.
Wally Tierheimer, representing Max Velocity Curls Jr. and Mom Tierheimer. Drivers are lining up, double file. We will be going back to Green Flag Racing. This time by 93 laps to go, lap 7 of 100. Not a whole lot has really changed in our running order other than Wally dropping back to 4th position. Edward Bray dropping back to 1 position. Gary Whitmer out there on that pole position side by side with Nathan Sylvia. Edward Bray will be on the inside. Wally Tierheimer to his right. Chris Hogue down there in 5th. Ronald Klein with RTK sitting back in 10th position. 16 drivers out on this field tonight. Hoping to see some green flag racing like we saw last night at Michigan. I was very impressed last night at Michigan. 100 laps, caution free. Coming up 2 weeks from tonight, very special event brought to you by Lee Ryerson. Anti-bullying awareness. We're going to have Lee Ryerson up here telling the story of a very special young lady, 12 years of age. A very sad story involving her passing due to bullying. Sometimes it's just too much. So 2 weeks from tonight, stay tuned Facebook as we put that event in order. We'll be working on that early part of next week. Pace car is in. Gary Whitmer Jr. out there on that front line. Edward tucked all over the rear end of the number 5, as is Wally onto the rear end of the number 19. Wally seeming to have a little bit tighter tuck onto Nathan Sylvia. Slight, almost contact there with the 66 onto the 57. That would not have been too good. Drivers will be reaching speeds upwards of 190, 193 miles per hour out here tonight. Takes almost a lap, 3/4 of a lap to get them up to full speed. Inside lane being led by Gary Whitmer Jr. Being challenged by that middle lane being led by Nathan Sylvia. Wally Tierheimer, Jay Anderson to the outside of the number 6, Napa, Chris Hogue. Gary Whitmer Jr. will lead that lap. Gary Whitmer Jr. leading 5 laps. Nathan Sylvia leading 4. 1 lead change. Lap 9 of 100. Join us on July 2nd, first Sunday of the month, for our monthly Race 4 pad. 4th of July weekend or not, we are going to continue on with that race. What a better time to have a pad race than the 4th of July weekend. High time for accidents to happen out there on our roadways. Richard Brose, Donald Stewart, number 87 and the 78. Richard Brose having a little bit of internet issues right there. Number 14 on the inside. 14 being driven by Ben Gear. Jack Watts in the number 77 showing his support for pad. Good to see old Jack hanging out. Representing Southeast Motorsports. Two stragglers back there in the rear, Michael Johnson and Ronald Klein. Not sure if they had meant to lose that draft. Gary Whitmer being pushed on by Edward Bray in very good hands. Richard Brose in the number 87 pulling out. Doesn't seem to have anybody willing to go 3 wide with the number 87 of Richard Brose. Richard Brose going to get hung out there in that 3rd lane. Now, we had talked about that draft. Richard Brose going out to that 3rd lane by himself. Very dangerous thing to do. Nobody willing to go out there with Richard. Richard in definite danger of losing that draft. Gary Ed up on that inside lane. Nathan Wally outside so far, calm and steady. Steady and calm on lap 12. Ronald and Joel both have informed me that if they are unable to finish tonight's race, they'll jump up here in the booth with me. I certainly hope to see them, but I also hope to not have them enter the booth because they were damaged beyond repair. Joel Guy and Ted Ebenheiser, and the number 9 of Lee Ryerson Jr. sitting in 13th, 14th, and 15th position. Sitting at 7 seconds back behind our race leader, Gary Whitmer. Joel Guy, love it or leave it, driving the United States Marine Corps Chevy Silverado. Needs to be getting that Silverado down there on the floor. Needs to get up there to the rear end of Lee Ryerson and Ted. Ted Ebenheiser in the Arctic Cat, number 7. Big shout out there to Ted Ebenheiser and Gearhead Paint Shop. Ronald Klein with RTK Motorsports. Nice looking paint job right there by RK Paints and Designs, showing his support for pad. Michael Johnson, Richard Brose starting to pull away from Ronald Klein. Jack Watts all over the rear end of the number 14 Ben Gear with the United States Air Force. Jay Anderson in the number 18 being pushed on by the number 78. Jack Watts up to that high lane. A little bit of in-car action there from Wally Tierheimer. Drivers very content to stay double file early on. Gary Whitmer still up on that lead lap, leading 9 laps. Still being pushed on by Edward Bray. Nathan Sylvia Wally on that outside lane. Chris Hogue holding solid. Wally Tierheimer. Whoa. Jack Watts, not quite sure what happened to Jack Watts. Losing that draft just a little bit. Jack Watts able to get back onto that draft. Right now, Jack Watts kind of fighting for his life. Really not a teammate nary in sight. With this smaller field, drivers are going to team up, friend up, buddy up very soon. Nathan Sylvia taking that lead away from Gary Whitmer Jr. Jay Anderson pushing hard on Wally. Donald Stewart showing his support for the Boston Red Sox. Gary Whitmer's second truck on the inside. Nathan Sylvia. Max Velocity Racing. Wally Tierheimer, Max Velocity. Jay Anderson running with the guys from KMA tonight. Jay Anderson to that outside lane. Donald Stewart going to squeeze up that middle line. Jay Anderson wanting to go do a little bit of three wide action. Nobody biting. Donald Stewart allowing him back in. Donald Stewart thinking about it one more time. Gary Whitmer back out there on that front line. Edward Bray, Gary hooking up one more time. We are three wide. Wally Tierheimer in the middle between Richie and Jay. A little bit of three wide action there for you folks. Lap 20 of 180 to go. Donald Stewart heating it up with Jay Anderson. Wally Tierheimer, the monkey in the middle, or in his case, the burger in the middle between the buns. Double foul, three wide action right there. Middle lane falling apart. Jay Anderson and Donald making something happen on that outside lane. Nathan Sylvia, wiggly squiggly. Jack Watts, Richard Brose, 87-77 on the inside lane. Michael Johnson in the 004 hanging on for dear life. Michael started 6th, currently is in 11th position. I think Edward Bray may be very content to push Gary Whitmer all night long. One more time on that outside lane is Donald and Jay getting a big run. A lot of separation there in the middle between Wally and Nathan Sylvia, though. You got to be hooked up. You got to be willing to push. You don't push. I mean, this is not the kindergartner lunch line. We want you to push. We want you to shove. Right now, Wally not pushing hard on Nathan Sylvia at all. Guess he doesn't want him to spill his milk. Richard Brose, a big drastic move up there in front of Nathan Sylvia. Made me stop and look twice. Richard Brose now charging to the front with Nathan Sylvia, the number 19, I want to go fast. Number 14, Ben Gear off track, back up. Jay and Donald still looking at that three wide action. Richard Brose challenging Gary Whitmer out there on the front line. And again, Nathan Sylvia side by side with Edward Bray. $11 trucks up here on this lead lap. Three wide with Wally one more time. Wally's been taken three wide now several times, holding it very steady, back down to double file action. But these front 6 trucks, ladies and gentlemen, awesome racing on lap 23 of 100. Everybody showing a lot of patience. They are approaching lap traffic of Joel Guy. Joel Guy getting off that track. Joel Guy heading into pit row. Richard Brose will lead his first lap, leading lap 24. Leading lap 23. We are on lap 24. Gary Whitmer up to 14 laps led. Richard Brose down in front of Gary Whitmer. Up there in the distance, Joel Guy exiting pit row. Staying below that yellow line. Thank you, sir. Gary Whitmer doing an awesome job out here tonight with Edward Bray. Going to give you a little bit of riding shotgun action with a couple of these drivers. Riding shotgun with Jay Anderson. Staring at the rear end of Jack Watts, Southeast Motorsports, number 77. In car with Edward Bray, looking at the rear end of Gary. Gary in the 4-year anniversary truck. Chris Hogue looking at the black Talon, number 66 of Edward Bray. Big shot out there too. Edward Bray, black Talon. Edward pulling double duty night after night as a race admin. Race control, trying to run his own race. Trying to take care of things down there on the track so I can get up here and do my thing without Ed. I'm not sure we could make the things happen as we do. So big shout out to all the guys out there, all the fans out there that make it happen for us. In car with Ben Gear. Now from Ben Gear's position, he's back there in 9th position. That is the Hornet's Nest, ladies and gentlemen. Very solid Hornet's Nest. Nathan Sylvia up there in the distance, bringing it down to that inside lane. But this is indeed the Hornet's Nest. We have been caution free now for 22 laps. Should be looking at some green flag pit stops before long. Drivers are on a 30 to 31 lap fuel run. We do know that Nathan Sylvia, Gary Whitmer did not go into pit row. Very high possibility of green flag pit stops out here tonight. That will bring out the strategy. Jay Anderson with the last lap time of a 48.922. Fast lap of a 48.581. Gary Whitmer, Edward Bray possibly setting up for that green flag pit stop. They have dropped down to positions 7 and 8. That will allow Jack Watts his second lap lead. Jay Anderson up there in front. Jack Watts on that inside lane. Jay Anderson on that outside lane. I do honestly believe that Edward and Gary dropping back, taking a loss on those positions so that they don't get runned over going into pit row. Pit row is as dangerous getting in as it is getting out. It's actually easier getting out than getting in. If you are up there in that number 1 spot going in pit row, you've got 12, 15 guys coming down at you. Oftentimes you want to wait until the last minute to let the group know that you're going into pit row so you can work off some sort of a strategy. It takes a lap or two to get prepared for pit row. mentally, physically, emotionally. You got to turn your wheels on and off, decide if you want 2 or 4. At this point in time, here we go. Richard Brose, Jack Watts into pit row. The Max V guys heading off into pit row. Richard Brose, Wally Tierheimer, Nathan Sylvia, Jack Watts into pit row. Green flag pit stops developing out. Checking back in with our race leader, Jay Anderson, Donald Stewart. Jay Anderson leading his first lap of the night, being pushed on by Donald Stewart. Gary Whitmer, Edward Bray back out. Oh, we got a turner. We got a turner. Alrighty, unfortunate break there for Jay Anderson as the number 78 of Donald Stewart. There she blows right there, not squared up, and round and round Jay goes. What a, well, he almost saved it. He almost saved it. That's going to be a game changer out here, folks. That is a definite game changer. Second caution of the night brought out. Contact between the 78 and the number 18. Gary Whitmer Jr. out there on that front line. Now, interesting situation here, folks. Gary should have enough fuel. He was under caution there early on for 3 laps, saving him maybe 1.5 gallons. And right now he's under caution. But there is the possibility Gary is right now floating on fumes along with Donald Stewart and Edward Bray. Hoping that Gary Whitmer has got enough fuel to get into pit row. And here they go, Donald Stewart. Gary Whitmer into pit row. Gary Whitmer Jr. started third, currently is in second place position. How you doing, Scott Nelson, out there on that KMA TV chat underneath our second caution? The whole turning issue. So far, though, not a bad night at all. Smaller field tonight. Summer and a Saturday night. A lot of drivers out with their wives. A few drivers, like myself, opting to spend the evening playing with our PCs and giving the wife the night off from us. Gary Whitmer, Edward Bray making their green flag pit stops. Ted Emenheiser sitting back in 10th position, started out here on 7th. How about it, Ted Emenheiser? Have you got a copy, sir?
Yes, I do, Scott. How you doing tonight?
Doing very good. Taking a look at your position right now, you're not in a bad spot. Small field. You started 7th. You're currently in 10th. How's the track out here treating you tonight?
It's pretty good. I had a little incident earlier with Lee there, and not for sure what that was. It was just miscommunication on letting up, or I just just turned him a little bit. But rather than that, it's been a pretty good race.
Alrighty, I'm also looking at the Arctic Cat. Did you paint that one up?
Yes, I did.
Alrighty, talk to us a little bit about Gearhead Paint Shop.
Gearhead Paint Shop is just a single guy that does paint jobs when he has time. Time is permitting to paint them. Enjoy doing it. You can find me on Trading Paints by Ted Emenheiser or Gearhead Paint Shop on Facebook. Probably about a month and a half or so, I'll probably be back full-time painting again.
Alrighty, copy that, and we're going to keep you awful busy as we do get closer into the Sanadega, Turkey Dagger, and the Spooktacular in October. Going to be some good stuff out there by Gearhead. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Ted Emenheiser with Gearhead Paint Shop. Lee Ryerson sitting back into position Started 18th, currently is in position 10. How about it, Lee? Have you got a copy?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Doing very good. You're looking good out there in the number 9 Mountain Dew. Pulled you up here. I want you to talk to our fans very briefly about the special event we got coming up 2 weeks from tonight.
Yeah, it's it's for bullying. There's been a big crisis lately with people and kids, and just you got a better pair of sneakers than I do, and people bullying. And I had a really close friend. His daughter took her own life. You know what I mean? Because she's been bullied, and it's just a sad thing. So we're gonna do a special race for her on the 1st, and it's sad what kids do these days.
It's very sad indeed. And, we all grow up, but unfortunately, there are some children out there, some adults, people with disabilities that just are underneath the constant cyberbullying, physical bullying, emotional bullying. So in 2 weeks, we're going to get out a lot of information out there, and stay tuned to Facebook for details coming up. And thank you for putting on this event for us.
Yeah, no problem. One more thing, it's some positive things that you should go online and try to find positive attitudes, or have somebody try to send you a positive message, and it might brighten up your day. Don't let that hurt you, and talk to you soon.
All righty, good information right there. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Lee Ryerson Jr. going to be putting on a very special event 2 weeks from tonight. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick look at our running order one more time. Nathan Sylvia, Richard Brose. Jack Watts up into 3rd position. Gary Whitmer Jr. in 5th. Wally Tierheimer in 9th. Michael Johnson, Donald Stewart, Ronald Klein, Ted Emmenheiser, Joel Guy, 1 lap down, but still in it to win it. Drivers lined up, double foul, going back to green flag racing. "35 laps in, 65 to go. 13 lead changes. Heating up out here at Talladega. I want to give a big shout out to a couple of other of our sponsors out here. Big shout out there to Jason Russo, Pro Automotive, our Tuesday night sponsor. Pace car is in. Nathan holding steady side by side with Richard Brose. Jack Watts running like a lone wolf out here for Southeast. He's got about 63 laps to find a partner. Got to have a partner out here. Edward Bray on to the rear end of Richard. Keeping a very close eye to his left with Gary Whitmer. Becky Whitmer out there on that KMA TV chat. Oh, I tell you what, iRacing is a non-biased gender sport. Look at Danica Patrick out there. So you need to talk to Gary Whitmer. Tell Gary to build you a rig, and we can actually set up 3 rigs right there in your living room, Becky. I've seen some pictures of the iRacing factory, and they've got 9, 10, 12 rigs set up. And of course, they're using those $6,000 curved 50-inch screens. Pretty cool. But hey, we can build you a rig too. Love to have Becky Whitmer out here on this racetrack. Jack Watts pushing very steadily onto the number 19 of Nathan Sylvia. Gary Whitmer putting on a very good show out here tonight. Still a lot of drivers out here involved in this pack. Beautiful night out here at Talladega. Join us Monday for the 4th week of our 15-week season. Monday, we enter Auto Club week. Xfinity class on Monday at Auto Club. Trucks at Auto Club on Tuesday. Cup cars there at Auto Club on Friday. Richard Brose putting the chrome bumper to Gary Whitmer Jr., trying to get Gary Whitmer Jr. back up into his first place position. Gary Whitmer Jr. is leading that outside lane, but still a truck and a half back before he will be around Nathan Sylvia. That is a ton of truck out there, ladies and gentlemen. Joel Guy, even though he is one lap down, riding in the back. Nathan Sylvia pushing Jack Watts. Jack Watts leading his 4th lap of the night. Nothing but clean air for Gary Whitmer Jr. out there on that outside lane. Same thing for Jack Watts, but it's another story there for Richard Brose. Richard Brose pushing all over the rear end of Gary Whitmer. Giving him a little bit of a shake right there, a little bit of a squiggle wiggle. Edward Bray, 3rd truck in line, looking at the rear end of Richard. Speeds up 198 miles per hour. Lap times of 48.6s for Edward Bray. Ben Gear down onto the inside lane, still looking at the rear end of Jay Anderson and the number 18. Gary Whitmer is clear of Jack Watts, was clear of Jack Watts. Gary Whitmer very content to stay up onto that outside lane. 42 of 100 in the books, 58 to go. Taking a good look at the right rear suspension of Edward Bray, the Reaper, they call him. Donald Stewart, very close onto the end of the Reaper. Donald Stewart loving the Boston Red Sox. Jack Watts with Southeast Motorsports, supporting pad. Becky Whitmer wanting to drive the pace car. Absolutely. Now, I tell you what, Becky, they do have this thing. Edward Bray has gone to it. You can actually go down to your local track and buy a package, and they'll let you run 5, 10, 15 laps out there on any of the tracks, and it's really not that expensive. A couple, $300 maybe. Caution is out. Going to take a look and see exactly what happened here. We know that Jack Watts was involved with it. Oh no! I think Richie B maybe have possibly almost drifted up into Gary Whitmer. I'm not sure. We're going to take a look at that one more time. Looking at the number 87's line. Gary Whitmer looked like he wanted to come down. Netco, maybe, possibly. Gary Whitmer's good. But that is the big one, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a look at that one more time up there from the blimp. And we're going to see how many trucks were involved in the big one here at Talladega. A bunch. I'll tell you what, a bunch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That was the big one. Richard Brose, Ronald Klein, Jack Watts, Jay Anderson, Nathan Sylvia. Not sure if Ted was involved or not. Ben Gear seems all right. Michael Johnson, Lee Ryerson, Wally, Gary Whitmer Jr. seemingly okay, along with Edward Bray. Lap 45 is the big one, bringing out our third caution of the night, folks. While these drivers are getting things sorted out on that track, I do want to give a commercial out there for PAD. Get you psyched up for our Race for PAD coming up the first Sunday of July. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit of contact there between Gary Whitmer Jr. and Richard Brose, bringing out our third caution of the night. I do believe Richard Brose got the worst of it. Nonetheless, that'll put Donald Stewart out there on that front line. Third caution of the night, lap 46 of 100. How about it, Donald Stewart? Have you got a copy?
Yes, sir, Scott. I got you. How you doing?
Doing very good. You're up there in first place. You're doing pretty well. Hey, give us some insight about that big one we just witnessed.
I'm not exactly sure what happened there. I think there might have been a lane change kind of happening, and he might have not been clear. I think that's what really happened there. And the one that I did earlier was my fault. We were getting ready to pit, getting set up, and I don't know, I just barely tapped him. I wasn't even in the throttle hard, and I guess I just barely tapped him and spun him and caused the first one.
All right, well, I tell you what, it does happen. This is a speedway. And these trucks, they are super sensitive. I'm looking at your Boston Red Sox Chevy Silverado, and I see a name on there, Everett. Talk to us about Everett.
Yeah, Everett was my father, and he was a big time Boston Red Sox fan. Every time there was a game on, he was watching it. He knew all the players, all the stats, all that stuff.
All righty, copy that. Big shout out there to Everett. What are your thoughts on the remaining 53 laps? There's only a few drivers in here, so we shouldn't be having many more cautions. What is the atmosphere out on the track with just such a small field?
It's actually pretty good. There's a lot of give and take, and we're still racing hard and, having fun out here. That's the main thing. Just come out here and have fun. And we race with each other every night, so we're doing good. And, we just make a few mistakes here and there, and but that's racing. But I think we'll go green the rest of the night. I really do.
All righty. Now, speaking of green, last night in Michigan, we ran 100 laps green at Michigan. We're heading into Auto Club next week. Any thoughts about Auto Club?
I believe we'll have some good green racing there too. It's a good flat wide track. It should be some high speeds, and pit strategies should come into effect with some fuel mileage there. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good time.
All righty, copy that. All right, and good luck to you, sir. And a big shout out there to Everett Stewart and the Boston Red Sox. Still need to get a Cardinal car in a truck out there, though, I tell you what.
Yeah, you need to talk to John Hendrick. He'll paint you up a Cardinal truck.
All right, copy that. Good luck to you, Don.
Yep, thank you.
Big shout out there to Everett and Donald showing his support in loving memory of Everett Stewart. Everett Stewart, a huge Boston Red Sox fan. Donald Stewart, Edward Bray, Gary Whitmer Jr. sitting in third position. Lee Ryerson Jr. up to fourth. Nathan Sylvia in fifth. Nathan Sylvia running a very good race tonight. Jack Watson sixth. Ben Gear. Richard Brose still alive. Position 8. Chris Hoke, position 9. Wally Tierheimer, position 10. Ted Evenheiser, Ronald Klein, Michael Johnson, Joel Guy, position 14. Now that will put Joel Guy back out there on that lead lap. Joel Guy showing his support for the United States Marines. Joel Guy was a Marine. Joel Guy looking like he's got a little bit of a tore up right side up there on that front line. Nonetheless, he's showing a lot of support there for Pad with the purple. So a big shout out there to Joel Guy. Damage doesn't look too terrible. I don't think it'll slow him down a whole lot. Drivers lined up, double file. At the halfway mark, 49 of 151 to go, 19 lead changes. Donald Stewart leading 4 laps, Edward Bray leading 1, Gary Whitmer Jr., our most laps led at this point in time, leading 19, Nathan Sylvia leading 15. Gary Whitmer Jr. putting on a great show out here tonight. I was watching the Facebook feeds today. I saw Becky gave the cat Maya a bath. Pace car's in. Here we go. I will say that is one thing I've never done, Becky, is given a cat a bath. And I've got 6 of them. We've always had cats, but I have never given a cat a bath. You are a braver cat owner than I. Ben Gear, United States Air Force in the Toyota Tundra, position 8. A little bit of right side damage on the number 14, the U.S. Air Force. Good to see Jack Watts out there, Richard Brose. Ronald Klein taking up the rear of the field in the number 76. Ted Emmenheiser hanging on for dear life. Lee Ryerson working his way up, position 5. Jack Watts cutting underneath. Very colorful field out here tonight. The green, the black, the red, the orange, the blue. Number 9, Lee Ryerson standing out in the Mountain Dew. All over the rear end of Black Talon, Edward Bray. Gary Whitmer out there in that number 1 spot, at least momentarily. As the stats do update. Pushing on the rear end of the number 78. Gary Whitmer with a little bit of rear end damage. Not going to affect his performance out here at this point. Gary Whitmer Jr. down there on that inside lane. Nathan Sylvia taking that lead right back. Nathan Sylvia leading 16 laps. Tell you what, they are looking a little bit squiggly wiggly out here tonight. Richard Brose one more time out there to that third lane. No takers. Wally possibly. Richard Brose back down. Inside lane having the run. Middle lane falling apart. One more time. Gary Whitmer up to the middle. Jack Watts coming underneath. Contact. Looking at Richard Brose out there, going 3 wide, and contact between the number 6 of Chris Hogue and the number 9, I do believe. We're going to look at it one more time, folks. Taking a look at the Napa and the Mountain Dew. Appears that the number 6 possibly drifted up a little bit. Nonetheless, number 6, number 9, and the number 87 caught up with it. Caution number 4 involving Chris Hogue, Lee Ryerson Jr., and Richard Brose. Gary Whitman Jr., Nathan Sylvia, Jack Watts, Donald Stewart, Ben Gear, safe and sound. Edward Bray, Ronald Klein in good shape. Wally Tierheimer still alive. Lee Ryerson will definitely be heading off to the holler, getting a brand new Mountain Dew Chevy Silverado, if he has one left. We do know that he was caught up in an accident before. That might end the night of Lee Ryerson. Ted Ebenheiser still looking in good shape. Michael Johnson alive and well in 11th. Chris Hogue, pretty sure that's the first time he's got dented up tonight. He'll be going back to the Hollard, getting his backup vehicle. This is our 4th caution of the night. 24 lead changes, lap 56 of 100. Scott Nelson out there on that KMA TV chat. Ouch. I agree 100%. Big ouch. Chris Hogue heading into pit row. Ronald Klein opting to stay out. Interesting. How about it, Ronald Klein? Have you got a copy?
Hey Scott, how's it going?
Doing good. But I tell you what, this is not the race we had last night at Michigan. Only had a few drivers out here tonight, and we're up to four cautions. What's going on down there on that track?
Scott, it's with the smaller amount of cars, the drafting is really hard if you're, especially if you're towards the back. I mean, you literally have to be right on the car in front of you. If you're not, you'll slowly start losing the draft. Most of the wrecks have been up towards the front, so I guess it looks like just aggressive driving and misjudgment.
Well, we're seeing a lot of bumpers not quite being lined up, but drivers not being quite clear. But I tell you what, still a good bunch of guys. Hey, you're looking pretty sharp out there in the RTK. Tell me all about RTK.
RTK Motorsports, online simulation racing team. We have 4 drivers now. Brad Ream, Gary Whitmer Jr., and Chris Hogue.
Alrighty, sounds good. And you have got 3 of those drivers with you tonight. Brad Ream not able to meet us. Now, we were talking to another driver about Auto Club next week. He told me what he thought about Auto Club coming up. What are your thoughts about Auto Club coming up?
I think Auto Club is going to be very similar to Michigan. We should see the same type of racing. There's a good possibility we've gone caution free there before. We get a good set like we had last night. We'll probably go caution free and we'll see some really good racing.
All right, now that is to imply that Tuesday with the iRacing fix set may not go so well.
I wouldn't say that because last week in the trucks we had a fixed setup that was really good. So it's kind of hit or miss with the fixed setup. So we'll just have to see. And ultimately, even if we build sets, it still comes down to responsibility of the driver to drive the car. And it looks like everybody really kind of took that mentality last night, and because the car was tight, so the car reacted differently for each and every driver, and the drivers really took the responsibility in their own hands and did a great job.
Well, that's the whole thing, is the drivers actually are learning. They're educating themselves, learning how to pick up a wrench and adjust a camber. Good luck to you tonight for the remainder of tonight's race.
Appreciate it, Scott.
Now, as we had mentioned just recently, we are at Auto Club, and on Mondays and on Fridays we run an open set. The drivers are allowed to get down there and adjust the camber, tweak this, tweak that, drop the tire pressure, all sorts of adjustments that they can make. On Tuesday we run more of a fixed set, just a few things they can mess around with that. But as Ronald mentioned, it does not matter if it's open, does not matter if it's fixed. It shouldn't matter if it's got 5 wheels, 6 wheels, or 9 wheels. It basically does come down to driver responsibility. I tell the drivers out here constantly, do not blame the track. Do not blame the vehicle. Do not blame your neighbor. Blame yourself. Driver responsibility. Joel Guy, 1 lap down. Lee Ryerson, 12th driver on that lead lap. Lee Ryerson, indeed, still on track. Beat up a little bit, though. Front end damage there on the number 9. Not quite sure if that's going to cause a problem with that draft. Definitely looking at a crumpled hood. If you have damage, you do not want it on the front. He's got it on the side. Got it on the rear. Got some on that side. I'll tell you what, I'm a little concerned here about the number 9 out here being damaged. Nathan Sylvia out there on that front line with Donald Stewart. 41 laps to go tonight, folks. Drivers are lined up. Going to get back to green flag racing here at Talladega. Remember, with the upcoming holiday, be safe. Not only out there thinking about pad, but make sure you keep your little ones safe. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but there's always one getting their fingers blown off there with the 4th of July. Make sure you are safe, teaching your children safety. Pace cars in. Nathan Sylvia side by side with Donald Stewart. I will say the starts and restarts have been done a great job out here tonight. No big problems with the starts and restarts. Drivers able to get up and running up to full speed very easily, very carefully. Once again, a very nice restart. 10 trucks out there making a runaway, 3 being left. We talked about that damage on the number 9 of Lee Ryerson. Donald Stewart dropping down to that inside lane. Gary Whitmer, 3rd truck in line on the outside lane, sitting in position 7. Still in a good spot, though. Donald Stewart, Nathan Sylvia, 1 and 2 on the inside. Edward Bray, 3rd. Wally, 4th. Ben Gear, 5th. Outside lane starting to make a run. Ronald Klein up to position 7. Ted Emmenheiser up to position 8. Jack Watts still holding very steady in position 9. Good to see Chris Hogue still out here. Having to use that backup vehicle, but he is still out here, still in it to win it. Ben Gear with the last lap of the 49-300. Not a complete speed lap. It's got a fast lap of a 48.576. Speed of 199 miles per hour. Not quite at 200 yet. Down to 193, 194. Doing a huge amount of throttle control. Wally Tierheimer leading his first lap of the evening. Ben Gear with a 49.105. Wally Tierheimer leading. Actually, Wally leading 2 laps out here. Edward Bray, our race leader, leading 3. Gary Whitmer Jr. on that outside lane, pushing on Wally Tierheimer side by side with Donald Stewart. Ted Immenheiser up to position 7. Up to position 6 in the number 7. Gary Whitmer in the 5. Currently is in 5th. Seeing a lot of cooling of the engines up here. Now it looks like they're wiggling. What they're trying to do, folks, is get a little bit of air into the grill. When you are pushing straight away, you're lined up, you're blocking that radiator, watching the number 78 on that inside lane peeking out, trying to get a little bit of air to cool down that engine. Same thing with Gary Whitmer. Gary Whitmer pushing Wally, but it looks like he's pushing on his taillight. He's trying to keep the right side of that grill free, and that's where these drivers can get into a lot of trouble. 3 wide possibility there with Jack. Jack Watts going to scoot up that middle as Gary Whitmer was trying to cool that engine. Ted Immenheiser having to slide up or turn him. Ted Immenheiser back in line behind Jack Watts. Might be in a little bit jeopardy of losing that draft. Ted Immenheiser reconnecting with the number 76. Wally Tierheimer, Edward Bray battling for this lap. Edward Bray leading 6 laps. Ted Immenheiser getting a little close to that wall, a little bit too close for my comfort. Ronald Klein, really nowhere for Ronald Klein to head off to. Holding very steady in position 8. Started out 16th, already halfway home. Ben Gear a little bit deeper into that hornet's nest. Nathan Sylvia in the center of that hornet's nest. Edward Bray and Donald Stewart. Wally Tierheimer. Gary Whitmer Jr. positions 1, 2, 3, and 4. Still looking for another round of green flag pit stops. Drivers cannot make it. Donald Stewart talking about how he believes we're going to go green flag from here on out. That being the case, we should see some more green flag pit stops coming up. Hard to tell when that would be because right now they are in that window. Meaning if they go in right now, fuel it up, they will be able to run green for the remainder of the race tonight. Very close racing between Wally and Donald Stewart right there, almost near contact. How about it, Joel Gabb? You got a copy?
I got a copy, Scott.
All righty. I'm not sure how long you had been out there knocking on the door to let you in, but hey, unfortunately, you're out of tonight's race. Talk to me and help me out, brother.
All right, well, it's been a bad week for me, so I don't know what I'm going to do next week, but I hope it's better than this one. Racing's been pretty good out there. Everybody's giving and taking pretty good. Bad thing is if somebody checks up and you're the last truck in line, you lose the draft and you're gone.
Now, I have been talking with our race fans about how important that almighty draft is. A couple of drivers out here having damage. Lee Ryerson having some damage. But I tell you what, we have seen out here tonight. We've seen that dang bumper hook. Well, right now we're looking at some big green flag pit stops going into pit row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, all right, talk us down pit row. Edward Bray in pit row.
Yeah, Edward's going to take 2 tires and fuel, I'm sure. Everybody that's working with him will do the same, and they'll get back out in a pack and run down the leaders and pass them because they've got to pit soon too.
Donald Stewart pulling out of pit row. Edward Bray pulling out of pit row. I do believe that is Ben Gear. Ben Gear in the pit row crew as well. Ted Emmenheiser. Now that'll leave Wally Tierheimer, Gary Whitmer, Jack Watts, and Nathan Sylvia running out there. Green flag now. This worries me a little bit, Joel. This worries me for Gary Whitmer Jr. He must not have been able to get down to that inside lane and pit with his team.
That's what I'm thinking happened to him. He couldn't get down to the inside because they had been discussing on radio when they were going to pit, but he was hung out on the outside and couldn't get down. So he's going to be kind of the black sheep of the family because
Jack Watts,
Max V's going to drop him.
Well, Jack Watts too now. Jack Watts is southeast. So I'm thinking what Gary and Jack should be doing, they ought to be talking to one another right now. Because you're right. Wally and Nathan, that is max velocity, and they're going to want no stragglers.
Yeah, they're going to want no stragglers. Unfortunately, Gary and Jack Watts are on different radio frequencies, so they cannot talk together.
Now, it also seems that Ronald Klein has fallen to 1 lap down, and Ronald Klein right now in jeopardy of losing that draft. That's no good either.
No, that's no good either. They really needed Ronald with them so that they'd have a 5-car draft. With a 5-car draft, they can blow by everybody.
And we've got pit stops happening with Wally, Nathan, Jack, but not Gary Whitmer. But Ronald Klein chasing down Gary Whitmer, so all may not be lost for Gary Whitmer. But I tell you what, Ronald and Gary, they have got to get hooked up. So right now we're in pit row with Nathan, Jack. Jack must have had some open chat and communications going on right there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Jack might be in the same channel with Wally.
Nope, no, sir, he is not.
He's not. Okay.
Nathan's,
Then they had to figure out how to talk to have figured out what they were going to do pit wise, or either Jack saw Wally pitting and just jumped down behind him.
Well, this may work out because Ronald Klein has actually hooked up with Gary Whitmer. Now, Gary Whitmer is part of RTK Motorsports, so all is not lost. What I predict now would be, even though Ronald is one lap down, I'm thinking he's going to go into pit row with his teammate, with RTK, and try to help him win this race tonight. Right now, there is 26 seconds between Gary Whitmer and Wally and company. 38 seconds between Edward and company.
Yeah, and Wally and Jack are not hooked up together, so they're falling fast. Edward and Donald are catching Jack and Wally real fast.
We've got it up there on Blimp View, and you're absolutely correct. Edward Bray is getting ready to run down. Big action right there, big action. Four trucks whipping around. Wally and Jack, Edward Bray, Donald Stewart, Ben Gear, Ted Emenheiser, clear down. That still has Gary Whitmer out there on that front line position working with Ronald Klein. That'll put Edward Bray 35 seconds back. Now, Gary Whitmer Jr. has yet to pit. Edward Bray is 35 seconds back. Gary's got help with Ronald. Can Gary get in and out of pit row in 33 seconds? Down that line, because he needs to get in and out of pit row and back out on track before Edward Bray, who is 33 seconds back, would get around him.
There's no way he's going to do it. Even if all he did was take fuel, that's going to take 8 seconds there. Pit road speed's 60 miles an hour. They're running 198, 195 right now, or better. So there's no way he can make it on pit road off pit road in 33 seconds.
That would be an awful tight run to get done by Gary Whitmer Jr. But we are looking at Gary Whitmer Jr. and Ronald Klein, both drivers running for RTK Motorsports.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with Edward and Donald and Ben and Ted. They didn't stay hooked up in a straight line and allow Wally and them to catch up to them.
We've got a 6-truck mini pack right here with Wally and Donald and Jack and Ed and Ben and Ted. A couple of these trucks are looking like they've taken a complete butt kicking on their door handles.
There has been some door banging tonight.
Not a terrible race, though. 4 cautions totaling out 12 laps, 33 lead changes. We are on lap 79 of 100. Gary Whitmer Jr. leading 26 laps out here tonight. Donald Stewart leading 7. Edward Bray leading 10. Wally leading 6. Jack leading 4. And Nathan Sylvia leading 21. Michael Johnson still in it, working around with Nathan Sylvia. Chris Hogue still rolling around. Unfortunately, 1 lap down. Lee Ryerson having to take it to the shop, 16 down. Joel Guy, 17 down. Richard Brose, 23 down. Jay Anderson, 34 down. Gary Whitmer in and out of pit row. So
Yeah.
Gary Whitmer and Ronald Klein did indeed split apart.
Yes, they did. And Gary's got no love back there with him, and the pack is pulling away big time.
Wally is, that's Nathan Sylvia actually. Nathan Sylvia, Michael Johnson, not sure if they will pick up Gary Whitmer or not. Does not appear they will. Alrighty, so we've got these 6 drivers right here bearing caution-free racing from here on out. We're looking at a drag race between Donald Stewart, Edward Bray, Wally, Ben Gear, Jack Watts, and Ted Emenheiser. All right. Well, starting with Donald, tell us about what you know about these drivers.
Donald's a good driver. He likes the high line more than he does the inside line. He's running the inside line because that's the line that's in the lead right at the moment. Edward Bray, he'll run any line. He's a very good driver. He's sees things that other drivers don't see. He runs with an Oculus Rift virtual reality headset, and that allows him to see things that you don't see on computer screens. Now, Ben Gear, I know him as a good driver. Don't know his expertise as far as which line he likes to drive the best, or how good of moves he'll make. Jack Watts, he's a good driver. He will make a move and take quick moves to move ahead in the line. Whereas Wally Tierheimer, he'll sit out there and he'll just bide his time and push to the front like Edward does. And when it comes down to last laps, Wally Tierheimer's going to be in the mix of things unless he gets wrecked out. Ted Eisenheimer has just came back after about a 4-week vacation from racing because of his real job, and so he's a little rusty on maneuvers, so not looking for him to be very much in the mix of things at the end.
Well, you know, Joel, just like riding a bicycle, it does come back to you. I know Jack Watts has got to be getting hungry, hanging out with the Carl's Jr., number 57, all night long. Edward Bray falling just a little bit short there at Michigan, but doing a great job. Edward Bray having to do a big checkup as Donald Stewart and Wally getting a little bit too close for comfort. I tell you right there, baseball and Carl Jr., that's some good stuff up there.
Yeah, good stuff up there. They were side drafting, and they got a little too close for Edward's comfort, so he kind of lifted a little to get off of Donald in case they happen to touch and start spinning.
Lap 84 of 116 to go. 35 lead changes. 4 cautions. Good race. Donald Stewart going up there. All right, we're getting into some 3 wide as we do approach slower traffic. We're going to be 3 wide. Wally Tierheimer with a big move down onto the inside. Drivers working their way around the lap traffic of RTK. I think Jack may have collided with... I think there might have been a collision right there.
Definitely there was. Jack ran into the back of that car. He didn't see him because the truck in front of him dodged him, and then Jack was there before he realized what the truck in front of him was doing.
All right, well, we got it on replay right now. We are on replay. Ooh, what a hit there. Jack driving the 76 into the wall. That's no good. Well, I tell you what, though, Jack's going to pay for it. That's going to slip him away and out of that draft. All righty, back up to live action here with Edward Bray, Donald Stewart, Ted Emenheiser, Wally Tierheimer, and Ben Gear. Joel, and then there were 5.
Yeah, there's 5 there now, and it looks like it's since Jack's out of it, Wally's kind of the low man on the totem pole and gonna lose the love.
Well, actually, Ted Emenheiser trying to give Wally a little bit of love. All he's got to do is get him up there to the rear end of Ben Gear. Ben Gear is going to grab that draft of Donald Stewart. And then with 14 to go, they could really get a big run going on.
Yeah, they could, but
But they're not. They're
Yeah.
passing Ben Gear. They're passing.
yeah, and Ted's just using Wally to get him another position, maybe in front of Ben Gear in the inside line, and then leave Wally out there high and dry. But it looks like Ben's caught back up to Donald, so therefore he's not going to get that position.
All righty, race fans, time to put your money down. Time for us to put our money down. You know what? I am thinking. Yeah, I'm going to have to go out on a limb here. I am thinking either the 7 or the 14. I am thinking either Ted or Ben Gear. And I tell you why, because I think that Donald Stewart is going to get that engine too hot. He's going to slow down. There's going to be a run happening. Or they're going to have to swap. Right now, Ben Gear getting very aggressive onto the rear end of the 78.
Yeah, but I just zoomed in, and the 78 is pushing, but he's not pushing. He's pushing just enough to keep Edward out in front. He's not sucked up on him so tight that he's overheating the truck.
Well, I do not foresee this ending as we are looking at it right now. I do not foresee it.
I don't see it being a 1, 2, 3 for KMA. I think that won't happen, but I think Edward's going to take it to the house.
I don't know. I would not count out any of these drivers at this point.
Well, I'm not counting them out. I'm just saying that my money's on Edward.
We are in car with Ted Ebenheiser. He is all over the rear end of Wally Tierheimer, just about getting up there even with Donald Stewart. Whoa, turning. There's the big one. No, caution. All right, they are green flag racing, but you know what, folks? I'm gonna back that up one more time. All right, we had contact there with Ted and Wally. Just that slight bumper hook. All right, well, that'll put Wally out. That'll put Ted out. That'll drop Ben Gear. Now that caution did not fly, Joel. Explain to our race fans why that caution did not fly.
Well, no truck stopped on the track, so therefore there was no anything to damage to impede the racing on track. If the truck wrecks, hits the wall, tears it all to pieces, but before it stops, it gets off the track, then you don't get a yellow flag. You only get yellow flags whenever the vehicles stop in the racing lane.
All right, well, I tell you what, like I was saying, I do believe that Donald Stewart could win this race tonight. I do believe he was my bet.
Well, unless Ben Gear and Wally get hooked up and draft back up to them, it's going to be a slingshot maneuver of side by side with Donald and Wally and Donald and Edward for the win.
I had actually voted for the 14 or the for Ben or Ted, the 14 or the 7. Now, unfortunately, neither of my picks are going to happen. We are on 91, 9 to go, and there's severe damage onto the rear end of Donald Stewart. Now, something that Edward Bray really could do right now, he could pass Donald Stewart and take this home. But, you know, I don't think Donald Stewart can keep up with Edward Bray having that damage he's got.
No, I don't think he can either. He's got quite a bit of spoiler damage, so Edward's pushing Donald to keep those two trucks out in front. And then at the very last minute, Edward will probably slingshot Donald at the start-finish line, right at the start-finish line, and take the win. And Donald will be far enough out in front that he will come in second.
Well, and Wally and Ben Gear, they're not looking too great a shape right now either.
No, they've got damage also, so they're not able to pull back up onto Edward and Donald.
Gary Whitmer is in position 6th. He is the first driver 1 lap down, but I tell you what, Gary Whitmer pulling down a 6 out here at Talladega. That is pretty impressive. Nathan Sylvia sitting in 5th position. Wally Tierheimer sitting in 4th. Ben Gear in 3rd. Edward Bray. I don't know, Joel. Ben Gear and Wally, we're getting ready to get jammed up one more time here at Talladega for the final 7 laps.
Yeah, it looks like they have caught up to him.
We've also got now Ronald Klein and Chris Hogue. Chris Hogue is 2 laps down. Ronald Klein is 3 laps down. Ronald Klein catching Edward Bray. Chris Hogue not out of it. Probably not in it for a win tonight. But I tell you what, these lap traffic cars, trucks, they can make a difference. Ronald Klein way below track. Back up. All right, a little bit of a wiggle right there by Ronald Klein.
Yeah, what happened? He was getting up on Edward, but he was getting up on Edward at the wrong angle. So he did the smart thing and got off the track instead of getting into the back of Edward at the wrong angle and spinning to Edward.
Becky predicting one more caution out here tonight in the remaining 5 laps. It could happen. It very well could happen. Very tight racing right here. Ronald Klein trying to help out his KMA brethren on that inside lane. Number 6 and 14 flirting with a disaster.
Yeah, they're side drafting heavy. Now those 4 in line, the 78, the 66, the 76, and the 6, they should pull away. Now, I'm not sure what that move was. Chris done and left his teammate Ronald Klein and got up in front of Ben Gear so that would pull them forward. And now Ben Gear and them's going to drop down and leave him out hanging to dry.
Contact with Ben Gear and Chris Hogue. Donald Stewart leading 18 laps. Edward Bray leading 15. Gary Whitmer Jr. will be our most laps led winner tonight, leading 27. First driver 1 lap down. Nathan Sylvia leading 21. Wally Tierheimer leading 7. Lap 97 of 100, 3 to go. 38 lead changes, 4 cautions. Not a bad night out here at all. But unfortunately, we are going to only have 5 drivers out on that lead lap. Donald, Edward, Ben, Wally, and Nathan.
Yeah, and Chris and Gary got together. Chris come down into Gary, and they got together and wrecked. So those two are out of it now.
We got that on our replay here momentarily, and we are looking at the replay. And yes, sir, Bob, the number 6 and the number 5 colliding on lap 98. Back up to live action. Live action, 98 of 102 to go. Donald Stewart, Edward Bray. Number 76, Ronald Klein. lap traffic. Wally Tierheimer, Ben Gear still in it to win it. Wally Tierheimer in third, Ben Gear in fourth. So this is a showdown between Donald Stewart, Edward Bray, Wally Tierheimer, and Ben Gear. Ronald Klein in the 76 running a little bit of interference. Lap 99 of 100. All right, Joel, I'm going to let you take over this final lap.
Well, they're coming towards the start-finish line for the win now. So 78 and 66 is following each other. 66 just pulled out to try to pass, and he finished in second.
All righty, so we're looking at Donald Stewart, Edward Bray, and I'm showing
Wally Tierheimer.
Wally Tierheimer in third. And is that verified?
That's what's showing on my results screen.
All righty, because I'm showing Ben Gear sitting in third, but I will take your word for it as Wally. All right, let's get these drivers up here and get in some driver interviews. How about it, Wally? Have you got a copy? Wally Tierheimer, have you got a copy?
I do. Yes, I do. I'm sitting here out of gas on the backstretch. I think I called it pretty close there.
So you're out of gas.
I am out of gas, and now Ben's pushing me to the start-finish line so I can join the guys.
Alrighty, so you did indeed get that third place position.
I did.
Alrighty, well, talk to me about it. Tell us all about it.
Well, we got kind of. I was at the very end there. I was working with Jack. Nathan and I and Jack pitted at the same time, and then and unfortunately Nathan had a little bit longer pit stop, and then he got kind of shuffled out. And then Jack and I were working together, and we kind of got shuffled out when we were all in a big. There was a big pack of us, and I dodged somebody, and Jack got stuck behind, and then he got a couple seconds back. But I appreciate him pushing and working with me, and then Ben and I were trying to put up a gallant effort there at the end, even though both of us were wrecked.
All right, now I do have one final question before I let you go. Why did you have Ben push you? Because it seems to me you could have hooked up those little gappers in the background. They could have pulled you.
Yeah, he's not happy because no one else is here right now, and he's in his little crate, you know.
All right.
Got to go and see how he's doing, but yeah.
All right, well, good race for you, Wally. Good job tonight, bringing home position number 3.
All right, thanks, Scott.
How about it, Edward Bray? Have you got a copy?
How's it going, Scott?
Doing good. Interesting little finish right there. You got second place. Good job to you, brother. Talk to me about the final few laps.
The final few laps was nothing but straight up communication between teammates of KMA, that's for sure. So it was great pushing Donald Stewart to the win, and it was an awesome race, Scott.
All right, very good. Real quick, talk to us about Black Talon. We got the cameras on the paint there, looking good. Tell us about Black Talon and talk to us about the painter.
Black Talon is it's Lee Staples and myself as teammates as a sub team under KMA. We still race for KMA and always will. The paint was done by Ted Immenheiser with Gearhead Paint. So big shout out to him, and big shout out for KMA tonight. KMA worked as a team and did an awesome job tonight.
All right, very good. But the man of the hour is Donald Stewart. I know you're excited, brother. Talk to me, Donald.
Hey, Scotty, how you doing, man?
Doing very good. Tell me all about it.
Oh, man, what a blast, you know? It feels good to be able to come out here one night and just let it all loose. We're not racing for points and all that. And we just had a blast, man. We worked on our teamwork and our working together and working on our pit strategies. And all in all, I think we had a pretty good race.
All right, now I'll tell you what, though. You took a little bit of a hit there on your right rear end, and I thought for sure that was going to be a caution right there, and we saw you do a switcheroony there with Edward. Good communication, but were you worried that Edward would have dumped you? Because I'm not so sure you could have kept up with Edward.
Well, me and Edward, we tight, sometimes
we tight.
Yeah, we tight. Sometimes I'm the windshield and sometimes I'm the bug,
Alrighty, well, you're looking very good out there. We've talked about the paint. We've talked about your father. Anything else you'd like to talk about, sir?
Yes, sir. I just want to thank Edward for pushing me to the win tonight. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. Thank KMA and all the brothers over there for racing and cooperating and having a good time working together. Thanking you, Scott, and KMA TV for everything you do, the broadcasting you do. It's awesome. John Hendrick for all the paint jobs. If you need a good paint job, you can look up John Hendrick on Facebook. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors, Blaze Pizza, GW Graphics, and I think is Richie B still here?
Pro Automotive.
Pro Automotive, yeah. Right, Pro Automotive. And the fans, for sitting up there and watching us do what we do.
Alrighty, very good job out here tonight. Donald Stewart bringing home the win tonight. You started out there in position 13, and you brought her home in first, and that's what that matters. Good luck. Good job to you, brother.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you.
Alrighty, Joel. While I'm flashing up these race results, tell us about, just end it out for us. Walk us out of here.
Well, Scott, we had some good side-by-side racing. We had some good green flag pit stops. We had barn burner finish at the end of two drivers trying to slingshot each other to get to the win. Unfortunately, we had some incidents that caused some cautions, and some drivers got knocked out and were not at the race at the end, including myself. But overall, it was a good race. It was a fun race, and we'll see you on Monday. I think we're in California.
Auto Club, yes, sir. Going to be some good stuff out there in Auto Club.
All right, we got a long trip to California, so we got to get home, get in the shop, and repaint the cars, and get everything loaded up, and take that long trek to California.
All righty, copy that. All right, I'll catch you down there at the after party.
Roger that.